Welcome in, come close. This is where the next move starts. I made this room for the builders, the ones with plans and real world scars. Leaning in, making space for every seat that's led by heart. If you're growing fast and wearing too many hats, you're in the right place. Yeah, this is built for that. The Fractional Executive Network. Come on in, come on in. The Fractional Executive Network, where the best ideas begin. You'll have a podcast, and this is your sign. The Fractional Executive Network. Let's get to work this time.
Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Today we're going to be exploring one of the most essential and most under-examined qualities in modern leadership. It's called courage. This is not going to be a theoretical conversation. Our guest, Lourdes, she has lived this work firsthand, coaching, developing, and challenging leaders across industries and organizations. What we're going to unpack today is what courageous leadership actually looks like. The difficult conversations, I know we've all had them, the daily decisions, and the cultures that leaders build around them. If you've ever avoided a hard conversation, and I know we all have at some point in time, delayed a decision that you knew needed to be made, or struggled to balance accountability with empathy, this conversation is for you. The goal is simple, basically to give you practical tools that you can take back to your organization right away. I'm Tracy Nunziata. I'm a fractional CMO for the Fractional Executive Network. And I'll be your host today, bringing in our guest, Lourdes, whose expertise in courageous leadership has made a lasting impact on the numerous organizations that she's worked with. Please welcome Lourdes Diaz.
Thank you, Tracy. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today.
Same.
And to all of you listeners that are here with us, I appreciate it. I've spent my career at the intersection of people, culture, and business performance. Whether I was leading enterprise inclusion strategy for a global organization, building workforce development coalitions, or helping a leadership team navigate a major transformation, the common thread has always been the same. Organizations perform at their highest when people feel generally valued, heard, and led with intention. I've had the privilege of working across Fortune 500 companies, financial services, non-for-profits, and global companies. And what I've learned is that most common barrier to growth into strategy or resources isn't the leadership conversation that never happened. That's what brought me to this topic. And that's why I am so excited to be here with all of you today. As a fractional chief people and culture officer with the Fractional Executive Network, I step into organizations at a critical moment to help leadership teams build the clarity, accountability, and culture that make great performance possible. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
So am I. So let's jump right into it. Let's start with what courageous leadership actually means to you. So my first question, Lourdes, is basically, how do you define courageous leadership, and why do you believe it's one of the most important traits for executives today?
Tracy, that's a great question to sort of like kick off our conversation. Courageous leadership is foundational to building and sustaining a successful business. It influences strategy, execution, risk mitigation, and most importantly, how we empower our people across all levels of the organizations. Let's not forget, from the front line to the highest level of executive leadership in the organizations we join. For me, Courage begins with mindset and daily practice. It is not something leaders turn on only during a crisis. Courageous leadership means consistently choosing clarity over comfort and truth over avoidance.
That's a really important distinction. So it sounds like it should be a daily practice versus not a crisis response.
Exactly.
Okay.
Let me put it to you this way now that you highlight it.
Okay.
Courageous leadership is a cultural force. And it's something that I remind myself often. It's a cultural force. It gets embedded, right? It shapes how people show up, how they engage, how they collaborate, and ultimately, how they perform. Employees watch leaders closely. When leaders avoid difficult conversations or delay decisions, uncertainty grows. And Tracy, it grows fast. It happens quickly. But when leaders step into challenges with authenticity, discipline, and intention, they create trust and stability.
So basically, my takeaway is that the leader's behavior pretty much sets the tone for the entire organization.
Precisely. Absolutely. The strongest organizations are not the ones without challenges. They are the ones willing to lean into difficult moments with purpose and accountability. Today's business environments are changing consistently. Workforce expectations, customer demands, operational pressures, and market uncertainty. Leaders must be courageous enough to make difficult decisions while still leading with humanity and empathy. When leaders model courage consistently, they create cultures where people feel valued, accountable, innovative, and empowered to contribute. And that's important in order to sustain our workforce.
I would imagine.
Yes. This is why I believe courageous leadership is one of the most important leadership traits executives can possess today.
So courage isn't a personal quality. It sounds like it's more of an organizational asset. So what I want to do is let's talk about where that courage gets tested out the most. So that brings me to my next question for you. So in your experience, what are some of the most common conversations leaders avoid? And by avoiding them, what are the consequences that go along with that?
That's an excellent question, because I hope, again, that as we continue this conversation, all of you who are with us today can really walk away with some tools, some nuggets that would help you apply our conversations.
Right.
It's easier said than done, right? Some of the most common conversations leaders avoid are often the very conversations that have the greatest impact on organizational culture and performance. Topics such as role expectations, accountability, performance concerns. This is why everyone gets nervous around performance assessment time. Conflict resolution and diverse perspective, which so often get unaddressed. Managers must provide very clear expectations and define what success looks like at the end of the day. Without that clarity, performance gaps begin to grow, and they grow fast. Misunderstandings increase, and conflict develops between leaders and employees. Over time, this can create frustration, disengagement, and even a toxic workforce.
I'm sure. And I'd imagine that once that type of culture takes place or hold in an organization, it's probably really hard to reverse that.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Another area where leaders sometimes avoid embracing diverse perspectives. And that gets complicated at times when you want, to your point, undo what we have done. Because they may challenge the status quo. This is something to pause and think through. Yet avoiding those perspectives can limit innovation and create larger organizational challenges in a later time.
Yeah. Do you have, I think what would be really helpful is do you have an example that you could share with us?
Yes.
That kind of brings that to life?
excited to actually
Okay.
share an example. There's so many of them, but I'm going to try to help out with one
let's do
short
one.
one. I was brought into a situation involving a director of operations managing a high revenue customer account. Without anybody's approval, he had negotiated terms the company just could not meet.
Oh, wow. That sounds like a serious breach of
And
trust
it is
right there. Yeah.
100%. The customer became frustrated and threatened the company with legal action. What made the situation even more concerning was that this was not the first occurrence. Previous customer interactions had already revealed a pattern of overcommitting beyond contractual agreements. It was obvious that it was happening many times.
So leadership had seen these warning signs, but didn't act upon them?
Again, the difficult conversations no one wants to
Avoided it,
have.
right? Okay.
The director's supervisor knew there were concerns. He was already worried, but struggled with holding accountability, conversations that just he didn't want to face. Because those difficult conversations were delayed, the organization now was at risk of losing a 7-figure account. Causes pause. What could have been prevented? What actually could have prevented this escalation is the question we want to ask, right? Well, courageous leadership, courageous conversations that are often difficult. When leaders address difficult situations early with discipline, authenticity, and clarity, they protect relationships that are key to strengthen accountability and prevent small concerns from becoming major organizational problems. Avoiding difficult conversations rarely eliminates the problem. Most often, it magnifies it.
Yeah, it sounds like the example you just provided us really brings that to life, how it really kind of started and then kind of got out of control in a sense, right?
Oh my goodness.
It sounds like, the leadership gap that compounded over time. So let's talk about the other side of the equation now. Let's flip it. And then how do you hold accountability without losing the relationship? I think that's where people want to tiptoe, right? They don't want to hurt their relationship with someone. So my question on that is, in your blog, and for all of you, Lourdes has an excellent blog series, and you'll talk about that a little bit later. But I read the blog, and in there you write that courageous leadership requires both empathy and accountability. So how can leaders balance, being passionate, while still balancing and addressing that difficult performance or behavioral issues?
Thank you for posing that question. And I addressed this topic on the blog because over the years, I've learned that this is one of the most difficult executions for leaders to master, right?
Right.
Courage is not harshness. Let me underscore that it is all about the delivering of truth with warmth and care. We could be firm, we don't need to be harsh, and we need to be cautious that we just reach directly the truth that we're talking about. To me, courageous leadership is rooted in servant leadership and empathetic leadership. And again, servant and empathetic leadership. Commonly, the leadership is not thought through that lens. It means prioritizing people. After all, our team members, leaders, customers, shareholders, the community that we touch each and every day. That's at the heart of our leadership.
I think that's like a balance a lot of leaders struggle with, quite frankly.
Right.
I think they either avoid that hard truth or they deliver it without care, right? Without that empathy.
Absolutely. As leaders, we are responsible for leading humbly, empathetically, firmly, clearly, and authentically. truly all of them have to be in the menu.
Can
Our
imagine.
greatest impact often happens one person at a time. And I have a story that captures exactly
good.
the balance, how this looks if we have the time and
We
you
do.
allow me.
I think stories really help bring this to life.
This is a really good story, and it goes to the heart of an example that so many of us have to face often.
Okay.
I remember a woman in one of my global teams who felt that she was ready for a promotion. She approached me with confidence and shared her qualifications, passion, and commitment to the company with a great deal of belief in herself.
Okay. So it sounds she put herself out there by coming to you.
Yes, and that takes
I think
courage.
that I was going to say I think that takes courage in itself.
Yes, and it is an example that transcends, right? I listened carefully. I took a lot of notes because I wanted her to feel that I fully understood her perspective, and that she didn't have to hesitate to really come to me. I've been promoting this culture of your voice matters. I thanked her once we finished speaking, once she actually shared everything that was important to her. And I really asked her to schedule some more time for follow-up rather than just tackle a solution at that particular moment. I think timing often
Right.
is key. When we met again, I acknowledged her strength and potential, while I also outlined the additional development she would need before she was fully ready for a promotion. That was a hard step because she believed she was ready within her career journey. Of course, she was surprised. She expected the next step
Right.
would be a promotion. And honestly, she was quite disappointed.
I'm sure. But you know, it's a conversation, like you said, that needed to happen. So I think that's where most leaders either back down or just they avoid it, right? And it sounds like you did neither. You addressed it.
No, as a matter of fact, this point that I'm about to underscore on this example is something that to our audience, I recommend, let's take this under consideration, right? I knew she was disappointed. I knew she was almost deflated at that moment where the promotion was not the next step. However, I committed to mentoring her over the following year. And I underscored how her success was totally a goal she could achieve. That personal investment made a difference. I was empathetic while still holding her accountable for the next steps that she had not accomplished yet. I delivered truth with care, with warmth, and with her priority at heart. Because I generally care about her growth and success, and the success of the team, if you think about it, right? That is the balance between the courage that is necessary from us as leaders and moving on to the next step, embracing how important our team members are.
Yeah. I think this story captures something really important. The courage to be honest and to care and to stay invested in someone's development. They want to feel that, right?
Yes.
So moving from that, let's bring in another dimension. Creating the conditions where people feel safe doing the same. So my question for you around this is psychological safety. It's a phrase that many leaders hear, but not everyone understands. So what role does courageous leadership play in creating an environment where employees feel secure or safe in speaking up and challenging the ideas or status quo?
You are absolutely spot on. Tracy, many people hear the term psychological safety, but not everyone fully understands what it truly means. Some even shy away from this whole terminology. When you don't really understand, you do shy away.
Right.
And honestly, even within our homes and our communities, psychological safety applies with our children, if we have any, with our friends, spouses, mates. And so it is important that we have an opportunity to take a moment today just to touch upon it quickly. Psychological safety, it's at its core creating an environment where people can be their authentic self, feeling safe to just bring your whole self to the moment.
Yeah. And when people can't be authentic, I think that they disengage. Do you see that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And so even if they stay in an organization and they're disengaged, it's not a good situation.
No, they're not
No.
being their productive self.
Right,
And
right,
everybody wants to be
right.
productive. It means building a culture grounded in respect, professionalism, inclusion, and openness to diverse perspectives and innovation. This is important, where all voices are heard. And for all voices to be heard, we need to include everyone. Courageous leaders intentionally create a space for people to contribute to their voice, challenge ideas respectfully, and share perspective without fear and hesitation. We want organizations where employees feel safe, speaking up, asking questions, offering solutions, innovating, and engaging in healthy dialogue.
How do you build that? I mean, it's not, and you don't just do it, right? It doesn't just happen overnight. Especially in organizations where culture has historically been the opposite.
Easier said than done.
It
So I
sounds
hear,
like it.
right? This culture should not stop internally. Let me add to how important it is for us to watch how we could really reach that point of success. When we engage with clients, partners, and communities, we should model the same inclusive and respectful culture externally that we promote with our organization. That experience internally, that practice, should be cascading to our clients and community. Courageous leadership allows people to navigate difficult conversations and uncomfortable challenges while still protecting trust and relationship building. Over time, this creates what I call the ripple effect. And I love that term. Courage becomes embedded in the culture. It becomes an organizational norm, not just an individual trait. And that is where truly transformational culture are built.
Okay. You said you love the phrase the ripple effect. I love that too. I love that framing of the situation. Courage as a cultural norm, not just a personal trait, right? So let's bring it home now for our listeners and talk about what that first step actually looks like. So for our leaders listening today, what is the one courageous conversation they may be avoiding right now? And what advice would you give to them?
Excellent. And I really always like to give those takeaways, right? And for all of those of us that are in the trenches of leadership all the time, you want to reflect on a weekly basis. Am I actually living what we're believing is correct? To our listeners, again, thank you for being with us through this conversation. I believe in my heart it is valuable to what we do each and every day. And I want to encourage you to pause and give this some thought. Together, we can overcome the discomfort that often comes with facing conflict or difficult conversations, again, professionally or personally. When we take the first step towards accountability, clarity, and resolution, we create the opportunity for meaningful change. And isn't that what we want? Change?
Absolutely, absolutely. And sometimes that first step is the hardest part, and even just committing to take that step.
Yes, every step is important. When I think about challenging moments in leadership, I often ask myself, like I said, this is sort of like a check-in, beginning of the week, end of the week, right? What is the value of solving this particular solution I'm facing in a way that creates a win-win outcome for everyone involved? And the parties change depending upon the situation. And I have learned something very important. Courage does not mean the absence of fear. It means choosing to move forward despite of it. And I want to say that again. I certainly cannot claim authorship.
Okay.
This is something that maybe many of us have read before, but it is so important. It's not the fear, it's how we actually lean in. It's the absence of that fear, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's a reframe for a lot of people. I think that's a reframe a lot of people need to hear.
Yes, I think it's, we cannot underscore it enough.
Right.
So I would challenge each listener to take 3 practical steps. Let's start with number 1. Identify one difficult conversation you may be avoiding and commit to addressing it with empathy and clarity. 2, reflect honesty on what is preventing you from acting, whether it is fear of conflict, concern about how the message will be received, or uncertainty about where to begin. Believe in your courage to overcome the fear, because you care for the person you're about to have the conversation with. And that matters more than anything else, that care. And number 3, take the step and schedule the conversation. Once you schedule the conversation, it makes it real. It opens that access to, I'm not stepping back
No
now.
going back now, right?
Exactly. Visualize yourself addressing the issue thoughtfully and respectfully. Imagine the sense of relief, alignment, and progress that can come from resolving what has been left unspoken, what you carry on your shoulders, what keeps you up at night. Focus on the positive outcomes that can emerge when people feel heard, respected, and aligned. And finally, celebrate your willingness to lead courageously and empathetically. That is the kind of leadership that transforms organizations and changes lives every day.
I love this. You just gave us 3 practical steps. You just told us exactly what to go into. And I think the most important one just might be that first conversation, right?
Yes.
All right.
Indeed.
I love it. So, let's talk about now how the Fractional Executive Network supports organizations working through issues like this.
Well, we've talked today, the avoided conversations, the cost of delayed accountability, and the power of empathy paired with clarity were not isolated leadership challenges. They are organizational ones. And yet, most organizations don't have the internal capacity to address them consistently. Leaders are busy running the business, and so culture work gets pushed to the bottom of the agenda. And the conversations that most need to happen keep not happening. That's exactly the gap that fractional executive leadership is designed to fill. As a fractional chief people and culture officer, I step into organizations at the moment they most need it. Whether they're navigating rapid growth, a leadership transition, a culture challenge, or workforce complexity, they don't yet have the infrastructure to manage it all. I work alongside executive teams to build the people strategy, the leadership capability, and the culture systems that allow organizations to perform at their highest level of excellence. It's hands-on, outcome-focused work tied directly to business results. I'll underscore that again. It's hands-on, outcome-focused work tied directly to business results. Not consulting, not a deck, actually execution. If what we've discussed today resonates, if you recognize your organization in any of these moments, I would encourage you to reach out. Reach out to me, reach out to Tracy, reach out to our team. This work is some of the most meaningful I've done in my entire career. And the impact, when leadership gets it right, is everlasting.
Agree. And that's exactly the kind of leadership the Fractional Executive Network is built around. Experienced operators who can step in, build what's needed, and create lasting results. The Fractional Executive Network, we're experienced operators. We are not advisors. And as Lourdes said, we step in, establish accountability, and help leaders build out the systems and cultures across marketing, IT, sales, operations, that make courageous leadership the norm, is not the exception. If what you heard today resonates, and as Lourdes said, feel free to reach out to us. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can go to our website, the Fractional Executive Network, and actually there you'll be able to see Lourdes's blog, part 1, right, of your 3-part series.
Yes.
Or you can go to our YouTube channel and learn more about us. So I think we're coming close to our time here. So just going to wrap this up for everybody. So what Lourdes has shared with us today is a reminder that the most important conversations in organizations are the ones that feel the hardest to start, the avoided ones, the delayed ones, the ones where we convince ourselves and we give ourselves that out that, now's not the right time. But what we've heard today is that those conversations are the ones that really define our culture, protect performance and actually help drive performance in some cases, and determine whether your organization builds the kind of trust that makes growth possible. So Lourdes, I want to thank you for the conversation and bringing this to light with such honesty and clarity. For our listeners, if one story, one framework, or one moment in today's conversation made you think differently about how you're leading, that's the starting point. So don't let it be a conversation that you avoid. I'm going to give you the last word, Lourdes.
I loved it. I've loved our hour today. I loved our half hour today,
too.
I think. I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation with you at other times.
Yes.
And
we'll have to wait
you,
for your next blog.
I know.
Right.
We could review
Yes.
the part 2 out of the 3-part series. And I am thrilled to be here with our audience that have taken the time and moving forward. This has a life. This is so wonderful when it comes to this type of platform or podcast. You can just download anytime you want. But we're looking forward and we're excited for you to really walk away with some nuggets that are going to be valuable in your day-to-day work, but your own success. Courageous leadership is not about perfection. It's never about perfection. It is about intentionality, accountability, empathy, and the willingness to lead through difficult moments with integrity. When leaders consistently model courage, they create cultures where people feel valued, trusted, empowered, and inspired to do their best work and to be their best selves. That is the true power of courageous leadership. It's a pleasure to have the opportunity to talk about it.
Well, thank you, and thank you all for joining us today.
Stories from the table, lessons from